pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of
United States of America,
the Republic
which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty and everlasting God, who presides over all things in heaven and earth, come and preside over these deliberations so that those that make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Jim, you want to get us started?
Okay, good afternoon and welcome to today's combined session of City Council. Meeting will start with the work session. The regular session will immediately follow. During the regular session portion of the meeting, in addition to email, public participation will also be by phone. To participate, we ask you to please hold your calls with comments on pending legislation until it's announced that the phone call-in line is open and will now be accepting your calls. Please call and get until you get through to the meeting. As always, public comments are limited to 5 minutes. Finally, public comments at the end of the regular session are for general council business. Again, please hold your calls until it's stated that the phone call-in line is now open. Thank you. Okay, on council's agenda, we have 5 items, 5 resolutions. First is a resolution approving the disposition of records from the finance office as set forth in the municipal records manual. Number 2 is a resolution approving the disposition of records from the city clerk's office as set forth in the municipal records manual. Number 3 is resolution approving the disposition of records from the Office of Community Development. Number 4 is a resolution approving the disposition of records from the City Controller's Office. And number 5 is a resolution approving the disposition of records from the Administrator's Office. Any questions or comments on that?
No, thank you.
Okay, then we have Mayor George C. Brown, and he has an agenda item. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I'm asking for council's approval resolution to allow the mayor's office to have the ability to process right-of-way requests. Right now, as you know, council has the authority to do that. I'm asking council for a 6-month period of time to allow the mayor's office to process these requests. We're looking at outside seating for restaurants. And the issue is if a restaurant wants to request this, if council doesn't meet for a period of time, say a month from that time of the request, they have to wait until the next council meeting. With this process, you can actually request it through the mayor's office and we can process it that day or within that week and have it done or denied in a shorter period of time. So the hope is that we can get this through the summer months and into September, maybe October, and that's why I'm requesting 6 months. And I'll be glad to turn it back over to you folks after that 6-month period of time. But we will be getting requests from what I believe is the change to yellow and then eventually green. So this could be something that could be quite popular and just trying to make it as easy as possible for our residents.
Comments, questions?
Mayor,
Okay, John, I'm sorry.
just Mayor, just one quick comment I have. When the requests come in, would you be able just to let us all know about that, you know, by email or however you can just communicate that with us so we know?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think this will be very important, Mayor, with the social distancing that we have to do. Restaurants have to abide by, obviously their capacity is greatly diminished. So this will give them room to expand outside too as well, I'm assuming, right?
That's
So
the
just make it
idea,
easier
though,
for
is
them
that
to-
they can increase their revenue by serving more restaurant patrons. So now it's, and there are guidelines that they have to conform to, you know, the guidelines, CDC and the Pennsylvania guidelines that were set forth by the governor. And we'll make sure that they are enforced and that the requesters know that they have to conform to these guidelines. That's exactly right. but it will open up more revenue for these businesses because now they have another area that they serve patients.
Well, that's wonderful. It's just another thing that we're doing to help these businesses. So I
Yes.
appreciate that very much. Any other comments on?
I have something for Jim. Jim, these records that we're gonna dispose of, do we put this out for an RFP for, and who does it? Normally, if we don't, and thirdly, are these records that were in the attic maybe?
No. First of all, they were not in the attic. They were all in our designated storage areas. We have 2 storage areas at DPW. And that's where all of the ones that we have logged through our office, that have gone through our office, are kept. We have so many boxes and boxes, and it's been an ongoing
I see.
project for a number of years, but we never had any extra help. It was just basically myself and Kathy and initially Lisa. I was the one that did all the physical work there, and there probably initially when we started it, close to 2,000 boxes. We have it down over the years to 970 boxes. And, we just, with last week or 2 weeks ago, with the request for destruction of over 210 boxes, and with the 130 something, I believe, this week, we have it under around a little over 600 from 2000. So that's pretty good. And all of the records that are being disposed of are ancient. They're not current records. They haven't, they're not anything of any consequence or any historical value. There are a few things that are of historical value, which we've kept out. But again, we go by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission Records Retention Manual as far as what records, each records for each department have different dates that they're allowed to keep them. After that date, they can be destroyed.
Okay.
And as one of the seminars that I went to a number of years ago, when the previous state records commissioner came on board, one of the things she said was you can't keep everything because it just gets too unwieldy, too cumbersome. And if you have to find anything that is important,
Makes it hard.
the more you have, the harder it is. So for years and years, city council, or not city council, for years and years, everybody just, when they had so many records in their department and they wanted to get rid of them, they just stuck them in a box and said, put them in storage. Nobody ever went through them. Nobody ever checked them to see if they could be destroyed. So they just piled up, and that's how we ended up with approximately 2,000 boxes. And each box weighs about 50, 60, 70 pounds.
Wow.
Good
So,
job.
I'm sorry, what was your other question, Mike?
Is this something that we have to put out for an RFP as far as the company that comes in and shreds it?
No, because it's not an annual contract or anything like that. It's just done on an as-needed basis. And as I
Okay.
said before, we got some help before the mayor thankfully gave us some help the last few weeks. It was just our department doing it. So the numbers of times that we destroyed records and had to contract with someone to destroy them is well within the range of
RFP.
well under the amount of
I got you.
that had to be sent out under an RFP.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Sorry for that lengthy explanation.
Anything else on the resolutions or the mayor's resolution? Okay. Mr. Kalisko.
Just a couple things that I've been running into lately, and I think we all have, and I know Tony, you have. because we both have the same resident coming to us. With the stay-at-home orders that we have right now, with this COVID-19, it creates a whole host of other problems. Now that people are home, and thankfully they're home. I have a lot of complaints with music, loud noise from backyards, disturbing other people that want to sit on their porch now that the weather's beautiful. And the other thing is open burning, fire pits, and it's a lot of smoke. I'm hearing mainly smoke. It's not the danger they're worried about. It's the smoke that they close their windows in their house. They can't sit on their porch. And I tell them what Chief Coffey tells us and what Chief Delaney calls. Please call 911. Please call 911. Well, you get that. Well, they didn't show up quick enough. Never saw them. And then you get the complaint again. And Tony, which Hazel Street. It's a good friend of mine, good friend of yours. And I feel helpless for the man when he can't enjoy his backyard. My questions to the mayor, if it's possible, and I know this may take some thought, but during the daytime hours, if we could maybe, the police are busy and the fire department's busy. I understand that, and their issues that they have. I know they prioritize, and that's important. But maybe is it something possibly we could use code enforcement or even parking enforcement to at least go, and I have, thanks to Kathy Payne, I have both ordinances here. Maybe hand out the ordinance and explain the situation. Maybe not cite the property. Maybe make it a warning, at least during the daytime hours. Mayor, is that something that sounds like would be, this is a quality of life issue where you're stuck in your house as it is. If you can't enjoy your backyard, well, that's what we're here for. That's what the city's here for. Is this something we could do, Mayor?
Yes, Mike, absolutely, we can do that. As a matter of fact, I instructed Tyler to set up meetings with the council members individually with me next week on Wednesday and Thursday. I don't know if she reached out to any of you.
I got the email.
Okay.
I got the email.
So what I want to do is sit down with you individually, discuss your areas, and we have put a plan together. So I want to make sure that you're aware of the plan before we introduce it into the neighborhoods. So, Mike, it's also something I'm getting text messages and phone calls. I got one 9 o'clock last night. So I understand what you're saying. And we're going to be going over some information next week with each of the council members individually and let you know what plan we're putting together, making sure you're on board with it, and then we'll start initiating it. So it's something that's important to us also.
Good. And, obviously the fireworks start now, and I'm getting complaints over that. And I understand it, I understand it. But thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Marconi.
Yes, I do have a few for Charlie. I guess Butch isn't there today. Charlie, some storm drains on the corner of Matson Ave and Mill Street. All three are covered with leaves and debris. I was wondering if you can maybe send someone up there when they get a chance. It seems like it's from it's all that hard stuff from a couple months ago, and also the street there. It's pretty loaded with leaves. I don't know if we can get a street cleaner up there, but I can tell you if we go ahead and clean this in a day or in like let's just say tomorrow, next couple rains, it's just going to be clogged up again, buddy. So if you can work on that, I'd appreciate it, sir. Also, Charlie, there's garbage back on the access road. I can send you an email on more information on that if you will. I just want to let everyone know too, we did a cleanup up here in North End. I think all of you are pretty much aware of it with Greg Griffin, North Main Street and Johnson Street. It was pretty nasty. There was 30, maybe 35 volunteers that we had, and it went very, very well. And I just want to give a shout out to Greg Griffin and everyone who came up to help. We had people as far as drums coming up. One other thing too, I just think South Main Street, great job on that to the mayor and the administration. Hope you can help me with some of these, Charlie.
Yes, I'll get that to you tomorrow. Give me an email on the garbage access road, and I'll talk to Butch on both. Also, just for council's update, my understanding is that we should be getting that big leaf machine. You guys authorized the purchase, I think with liquid fuels money, if I remember correctly, so far back, about probably in January, February. I think we're taking delivery mid to late June. So that should really help out a lot with a lot of these situations.
And Councilman, also, we don't have a street sweeper. We've been utilizing Wyoming Valley Sanitary Authority's help to do that. So we're gonna reach out to the Sanitary Authority again to see if they can help us with the street sweeping. We don't have a machine right now to use. So we're at the mercy of the Sanitary Authority, and we're gonna be reaching out to them again, asking them who wants to put a couple on the street for us.
Thank you both, gentlemen. That is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. This is Gilbert Friday.
Yeah, a few things, so just bear with me here. I've been reporting the same properties over the last almost 5 years. It's the same repeat properties that we report every summer for high grass and weeds. I'm sure everyone else experiences the same thing. They get cleaned up and then I'm reporting them again a month later. So my question is to the administration, is there a way that we can streamline this and have code enforcement keep a record of these properties and revisit them every month in an effort to help keep the city clean? I think that might help to be a little bit more proactive rather than reactive, since we do tend to report the same properties over and over again. I'll let you answer that because I have a couple more questions.
Council, we are citing properties. The problem is we're not able to go before the magistrate at this time. For Tim and Maureen, when we do start the hearings, they are going to be inundated because we have an awful lot of citations. Is that right, Tim?
Yeah.
So Attorney Henry and Attorney Collins will be going to these magistrate hearings. So what I'm trying to say is we have a lot of citations that will be heard before the magistrates for a lot of these properties, Mr. McBride. And that's how you get the attention of these property owners, is by making sure that due process is followed. We're going to do that, and we are going to be making sure that these citations are actually heard before our magistrates when they open. They're not doing that right now, but I'm wishing that they will soon so that we can start initiating the process. And it's a lot of the properties that you've been reporting. We have been citing them.
Right.
We have been issuing citations, so we're just waiting for the opportunity to exercise those citations before a district magistrate.
Okay, sounds good. And then can you just provide a brief update on the budget, how it's looking for the year? And I have a couple more specific questions. Are nonprofits still providing their budgeted pilot amounts for the year? And what about permit fees for some of the larger projects that we were hoping for? Did those still look promising? It's like an overall view of how everything looks, because I know it kind of got a little bit sidetracked this year with everything going on, so.
Sure. We project a loss of revenue due to the COVID virus. At times I've projected between $3 and $5 million. We really don't know the dimensions yet because we haven't gotten all the data information in yet. Okay, but naturally, when you don't have the mercantile taxes coming in and the permit fees for the large construction projects that we were counting on when we put the budget together. So I'm just projecting. We're also looking for help from the state. I've written letters to the governor's office. I've spoken to the governor's office, asking them for some help as far as making us whole, or at least partly whole, for the revenue losses that we're going to be seeing during the year. There is money available. I don't know how much we'll get, or if we'll get it, or when we'll get it. We are in communication with the governors. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I'm kind of muffled here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Anyway, I'm waiting to hear from the governor's office to see if we'll be getting some of that relief monies. I get a daily cash balance every single day from Brick Kittrick, and I know how much money we have to run the city. I do have some good news for you. The Spear project, is ongoing. I believe Mr. Brooks and Larry Newman are meeting with them, and they're gonna talk about some of the historical values to that. But they pulled permits for, demolition and further, work on that project. So that is gonna be happening in the June timeframe. You'll see some work being done there.
Okay, good.
The project, the concept is a go. We're waiting for that to start initiating again. And also, as you may have seen going down South Main Street, we have the Geisinger project going on. We're building a brand new building next to the Planters Peanut Shop. That's another revenue source that we have coming in. Also, we have in the Midtown Village, Geisinger is putting a 65 forward, which is another investment into the city. So these are things that are starting to come to fruition now that were on hold because of the COVID virus. So now some of those monies that we were counting on are gonna start coming in, okay? We have initiated a waiver so that, as you can see throughout the city, utility companies are actually working, putting in a lot of the work that they had planned to do. That's another permit fee source and road cut fees. So we are starting to generate more of the fees that we were counting on. So this is right. The initial projection may not be as bad as I thought it was going to be. We won't know that until we see, a little bit further down the road. But I do get a cash balance every day, and we have the monies to keep the services going. Now, another problem we have is our garbage, our recyclables, our leaves and other waste products that come from the leaves and the trees and limbs and stuff like that. They're up by 20% over the norm, which means our tipping fees are up more, which means that we have to use more overtime when people want to take it to try to clean up the neighborhood. So we have gotten some people calling saying, my refuge wasn't picked up, my recyclables. We're working on that. It's just that we never expected a 20% increase in those collections. And I guess because people are home, they're doing more work around the house, so it's hitting us hard because we're labor loaded to pick up a normal collection. And now we're utilizing more overtime to pick up the extra 20%. So you have to bear with us. We are going to be picking everything up. If any of your constituents call you, please let them know that we are working on it. Some have been missed. We know that. We're trying to go back and get them. But with this amount of trash, recyclables, and yard waste, it's just an overpowering amount of money that we're spending right now. But I'm confident that we're going to, we're addressing everything, Mrs. McBride. And I can't give you a dollar amount yet. What was short, I had an idea in my mind, but that was when everything was shut down. In other words, we weren't doing some of the projects that we talked about. They're starting back up now, including the utility works. So it may not be as bad as we initially thought, but I can't give you a concrete number, Mrs. McBride.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted a general update, that's all. Last question in that same vein. Are we planning on hiring any summer help?
Yes, we are. We actually have a posting on our city website.
Okay, great.
So if you know anyone, please forward their information to the city. We're happy to, as we always do. We can definitely use the help.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Yes, I'm sure all of us, I want to bring back fireworks again on Monday night. I don't understand why people do fireworks on Memorial Day. It's a day to honor our veterans who served our country, somber holiday. But what really bothers me so much is the, insensitivity of people who shoot off fireworks, knowing full well that there can be present-day veterans living next door to them in their neighborhood who can possibly suffer from PTSD. And then also our dogs. I know so many people who dogs go absolutely crazy. I have 3 dogs, one goes crazy, the other 2 don't. And boy, does it break your heart to see what happens to your dog during these fireworks. So I had a long conversation with the chief. He told me some of the strategies that he'll be using through July 4th. I have nothing against fireworks on July 4th. I'll be clear about that. It's just these midweek, random weekends. I know it's violating our laws. I understand it's extremely difficult to catch someone in the act of it. But the chief told me he's got a strategy, and I certainly support him and hope it all works. I just stress to people, anyone who's listening to us right now, just about a veteran with PTSD and animals in the neighborhood. It's just awful to the dogs. I have two questions. One question is about parking meters. I got a question today. Is our temporary policy for free parking in front of a restaurant that is doing takeout, is that still in effect?
Do you want to ask the other question, Tony, or should I just answer what it's on you want to do it?
Yeah, just answer that one.
That's still in effect. The idea was pull up, pick up your food and leave. What we're seeing is people taking advantage of that and actually parking there all day. That's not the idea of rescinding the parking meters. It was to help the businesses out. People come up, like I said, or delivery services and so forth. Maybe they use one of these Grubhubs or something like that. They pick the food up and they leave. That's the intention. But if we see that people are parking there all day and taking advantage of it, that's where, if you see tickets being issued, that might be the complaints you might be getting. But the process that we started, yes, that's still in effect.
Okay, no, good. That's that on. And then the third question is
We're cutting out a little.
very to a law enforcement office, very somber. I know many of you know I'm married, sir, in Minneapolis. Do we still have a connection?
And we do now. Okay, we lost it there for a minute.
Everyone hear me?
Try it again, Tony.
Oh, yeah, something happened. All right. Great. I think many of you know that I'm married to a law enforcement officer, and both of us have been so traumatized and disgusted about what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis. How can we reassure our residents that this won't happen in Wilkes-Barre, and what are our protocols that our police department follow?
How can we reinforce the residents that we won't do what happened with that young man that died? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, how do we reassure, correct, how do we reassure our residents that won't happen in Wilkes-Barre, and what are our police protocols that they follow?
Well, first of all, I have 150% confidence in Chief Coffey. Under his leadership, okay, this department is well run, it's well structured, and they conform to everything that they should as far as dealing with the public. So I would say, to answer your question, I rely on Chief Coffey. I trust him, and I know that he will make sure that the officers treat the residents properly, and that I don't know how else to answer that other than I have all the confidence in the world in Chief Coffey. You folks all know him, and he's a cop's cop. He knows what has to be done, but he's a very good delegator, very good administrator. So I rest assured that he's going to be making sure that everything is done properly.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And, you know, we talked about fireworks, and you brought up fireworks and animals and the stress on maybe neighbors. And I know that we've had these discussions with Chief Delaney before about this, but we also have to remember the fire danger with these Class A fireworks that they made legal, that somebody can go out and buy these things now legally and possess them. We changed the ordinance so that you physically can't use them virtually on any private property anywhere because of distance requirements, and of course not on public property unless you're licensed and to put on an exhibit. So we've tightened down quite a bit on that, but the dangers of these devices landing on roofs as well as residential areas. I know there are fires last 4th of July, and I don't know why people are out celebrating May 27th and 28th, and I don't understand all that, especially in the view of the current situation. So I agree with you on that. I just know that we we just should get the message out before the 4th of July about the dangers of these devices. And I'm sure that Chief Delaney is probably going to be coming out with some guidance on that as well, and the consequences of using these Class A fireworks in the city of Wilkes-Barre against our ordinances.
Well, actually, Chairman, the meeting that we're gonna have next week with the council members, that's a part of it.
That's on the
We
agenda.
want to address it, and that's part of the meeting that you'll be sitting down and hearing what our plan is to try and combat that. I mean, I know there's firework businesses that are out selling fire. I didn't know they were essential businesses, but they, you know, they are selling them. I have not seen any in the city of Wilkes-Barre, but they may be out there. But the thing is, the meetings that we're going to be holding with the council next week, we're going to hold that with each one, but we're going to talk about a variety of different issues that is impacting our city right now. Okay.
We appreciate that.
We're gonna go over the plan with each of you, listen to your input and any suggestions that you may have. I want to do this as a team. Once again, you know, we work together and we'll be doing this.
Okay. And you just reminded me, Mr. Brooks, when you brought up about military service and everything. And I just want to commend you on the work that you're doing on the historical documentaries that you're providing. Very interesting, informative, and now I know why all your dogs have these strange names. So it wasn't quite clear. but very interesting, very informative, and very professional. So if anybody hasn't seen them yet, certainly worthwhile take a look at them and maybe help Mr. Brooks in his endeavors with that as well. So congratulations on that, going very well. We're very proud of all the work that you do there.
Thank you.
Anything else from council members? We're gonna take a little break here. Oh, Jim, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, before we go into the regular session, I just would like to say, because the agenda is not diversified and it's very simple, very simplified. 5 items from council, resolutions, all of the same nature, and 1 item, a resolution from the mayor. I'd just like to ask if council has no objections, all resolutions plus approval of meeting minutes will be combined into consent agenda and voted on as such by unanimous consent. It will be forwarded to the regular session, again, if there are no objections from council.
No objections on that?
No.
Yeah,
Okay, so-
all on consent agenda.
So everything will be on a consent agenda when we get into the regular session of council.
All right.
That's
Okay.
fine.
2 or 3
Thank
minutes
you.
and we'll go into our regular meeting. Just wait for a second here.
There you go.
Okay, we ready? Okay, please rise for the pledge. Allegiance to the flag
United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty and everlasting God, who presides over all things in heaven and earth, come and preside over these deliberations so that those that make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Roll call, please, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, Mr. Belusko,
Here.
Mr. Marconi,
Here.
Ms. Gilbert McBride,
Present.
Mr. Brooks,
Here.
and Mr. Barrett.
Here.
Also in attendance tonight is Mayor George C. Brown, Administrator Charles McCormick, Assistant City Attorney Maureen Collins, IT Director Frank Hirschberger, Assistant City Clerk Catherine Payne, and Administrative Assistant Lisa Sanfilippo. Council will now take questions and comments on agenda items from the public by phone. The phone line is now open. You may call in your comments and questions on agenda items right now.
Could you give us that number, please, one more time?
The number is 570-208-4266. 570-208-4266.
Okay, we'll wait another few seconds. Okay, it appears as though there is no questions or comments pertaining to the agenda. Move forward.
Okay. All right, we'll go into the voting of the consent agenda. Motion, second, and vote.
Motion.
John,
John?
Second.
I think it was Tony.
Tony? Okay. Mr. Belasco?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
And Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. All right, we'll go back through council members again one more time. Mr. Belisco, anything else?
Nothing more today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Marconi?
Nothing at this time right now either, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mrs. McBride?
I have nothing further.
And Mr. Brooks?
Same here, nothing further.
And neither do I, so we'll move into the public discussion portion of the meeting. Again, that number is 570-208-4266. If anyone wishes to call and address council, the lines are open.
And that's for council taking questions and comments on general business from the public. Phone line, as the chairman said, is now open. Anyone from the public would like to call in? Yes, so part of
Okay. Your name and where you're calling from, please?
John Toski, Alden Lane.
Good afternoon, sir.
First thing, I just got heard you guys get to when you get the chance, like once we get spaces change and things start to open back up, and we have some kind of meeting back in person. I mean, I don't know if City Hall is going to be the best place, like I said the last time, but just urge you guys when the time is appropriate that we get these meetings back outside or back in the public or in person. Now, basically, my question this week is about like open container laws. I ride down by ride my bike down by the river commissary all the time. And yesterday when I was riding, I was surprised. I rode down there. There's a cop in front of me, and there's all these guys drinking alcohol down there, like almost all the time. Every day I see it at least. But the cop pulled up to those guys and just basically told them to move out of the way. He didn't, write them any open container fines or anything like that. He pulled by another person and said something to him who I also see had an open container. But if I see that people have open container, I imagine he has to see it too. And the cop pulled down further like he was going to pull out, and I kind of slowed down until he caught up to me. And I asked him why he didn't write any open containers, and he said he was going to. I watched him just kind of pull away and take off. So my thing is, are we going to enforce open containers, or just drink down by the river? Is my question. And one other question is, why do we have the police just parking in random spots? And it seems like they're not parking anywhere where they can have any impact. Like I seen today, one of the cops was parked down by the complex. Like they have that encampment back there, and he wasn't back there. He was out in the front, like just parked there. I just don't think that you guys, that's the police the place by just parking them in the police random spots. Like they parked the police down by my house, down by Mayflower Park and the church parking lot across the street. that's not a really problem area. I think the problem area is the up further, up in the height a little bit where you need the composite up there. I don't know why it's in place. I just don't think that that's proactive. I think that's reactive. That's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're looking forward to getting back to meetings in person as well. All of us are. We can't actually move back into City Hall. We had this discussion with the mayor and his staff this week. We're hopeful that we will be back. We're not sure when the public will be back. Unlikely for our next meeting, which is in the early part of June. But we're hopeful that at least some of us will be back in City Hall. I don't know if all of us are going to be able to do that, but our operations department is working on the physical changes to council chambers. And so I think we will get there, but I don't know if we're going to have that in time for our next meeting. So thank you on that, John. And Mayor, I don't know if you wanted to speak about open containers and along the river, but I'm sure that maybe we can speak to the chief about that and address that, and then maybe a little bit more enforcement along those lines.
Yeah.
All right, anything from council members on those? Okay, all right. Any other calls? Okay, name and who you're calling from, please.
Hi, Jason Clark, Salisbury, Pennsylvania.
Hi.
I just wanted to let City Council and the mayor know that I'm going to present to council at their next meeting an application for a grant through the state of Pennsylvania, whatever agency it is, so the citizens can have a street sweeper. So maybe we can figure out where the money could come from. I'll actually make a personal donation to contribute towards the street sweeper. And I would like the city council and mayor to seriously consider the grant application that I put forth so the city can have clean streets. I know every property owner pays taxes. If they don't, they have their property taken from them. But at the very least, the citizens deserve clean streets. I guess that's where it all starts from. And a general question to the mayor and council, I would like any feedback, or what would you say to a working family of four, mother, father, and two children? And they're from, let's say, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Maryland, and they're looking to relocate to the Wyoming Valley. They have options. They can live in the back mountain, they can live in Mountaintop, they can live in 44, Wyoming, Kingston. What would you say to that family of four as to why they should choose Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania as their primary residence and a place to raise their children? And lastly, from the last pension meeting that took place, market has down approximately 4,000 points. And at the last pension fund meeting that took place, I believe in February, the funding ratio for the pensions of the city were at 56%. Mayor, I did not mean to throw you off with those questions off the top of my head last month. I did forward them to you yesterday. Again, can you tell the public and the taxpayers of Wilkes-Barre, where does the pension fund ratio stand right now, and what impact does that have on the budget, and what does that mean for possible tax increases that you may be asking for in December? Secondly, regarding the sewer system, are you still committed to not selling the sewer system to fund any shortfalls in the pension system or with the budget? And how do you perceive making up the budget shortfalls that there definitely will be at the end of the year? Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, on Mr. Carr mentioned about a grant application for a street sweeper. Would it be something that he would want to speak to Mark Barry about, or something, if you have some information, or?
Yeah, how do you want me
Yeah,
to
you
start
can take
answering?
it.
Jason, in answering some of your questions, I don't mean to go out of order, so I'll try and get them as best I can. I've talked to our grant writer and also my administration, and as you know, we always do LSA grants. My instructions is that we're going to start going after LSA grants for the betterment of the city. And what I mean by that is things that are required that we need to provide a clean and safe city, we're going to start putting LSA grants in. They'll be very energized to do that starting this coming year. So yes, we're doing that. We do need more. We need more than one street sweeper, to be honest with you. And I mean, anywhere that I can get funds to fund a street sweeper, I welcome that. Okay. But yeah, we want to go after more street sweepers, and that's something that we were hoping the sanitary authority would be helping us out with. But I welcome anywhere I can get funds to buy a street sweeper. So if you have better ideas or new ideas that we didn't think about, sure, we're always looking at ways that we can do that. But we will be looking at grants, like I said, the LSA. And I know this is some things that some of the prior people that were attending council meetings in the past had always said, why don't you put LSA grants in for the city? We're going to start doing that. And we're going to start looking at directing some of those grants towards what our needs are. So I hope I answered your first question. Bill, how do you want to go about the rest of the question? I think the other question was towards council. But I could also answer it as far as why would you want families? You want your council members to answer that?
I think we can all probably chime in on that one if we wish. And that question was, what would we say to a family that's interested in moving into this area and why they should live in Wilkes-Barre?
I'll go first if you want.
Go right ahead. Thank you,
Sure.
sir.
I mean, this is something I thought about a lot. So 17 years ago when I came back home, my parents were in 44, so that's I was in high school too. And I looked around and I thought how beautiful Wilkes-Barre, particularly downtown Wilkes-Barre, was at 17 years ago and still is today. But you know, for me, I look for absolutely wonderful historical architecture. So I bought an old 1873 house. I absolutely love it to death. Hope to live here for 40 years and die in it. But one of the things that I think that we should talk about and how we market Wilkes-Barre is downtown and our neighborhoods are almost like a senior citizen village in the making, particularly downtown. You look at all the new apartments that are coming into our buildings, you have empty nesters, retired people, or millennials that are moving it. And the two things, though, that both age groups are looking for is walkability. And Wilkes-Barre is a wonderful, walkable city, and that's why I love it so much. Affordability, without a doubt. You have an amazing amount of houses. The old coal miner houses are very inexpensive, and you can easily buy them and fix them up and have a wonderful house. So, I mean, I just think we have everything that you need. And for me, it's all about walkability and absolute convenience. I don't have to waste an hour and a half to commute and spend a lot of gas, and just close to everything. So that's why I love Wilkes-Barre so much.
Thank you, sir. City services are another one. We certainly have an abundant array of city services available to our residents that are unmatched anywhere else, whether it's our professional fire departments, police departments, and of course our DPW and health department, and it just goes on, the services that are available to our residents as well on top of all of that. So anything else on that?
I'll add something.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Of course.
Just to echo what was said already, I think that Wilkes-Barre is a great town, obviously, to raise a family in. I just had a baby, so I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. And I bought my house 4 years ago with the intent of staying here for a long time. With that being said, I think that we do have a lot to work on. And I think that while we need to focus on what's good about Wilkes-Barre, we also need to focus on our problems in order to fix them. And I want to thank Mayor Brown for finally doing what previous administrations should have done with LSA grants. That is something that is so long overdue, and I've been preaching about that for almost 5 years now, so thank you. Like I said, I think Wilkes-Barre has great potential, but we need to improve a lot. We have a lot that we need to improve, especially up in our neighborhoods. People in the neighborhoods are getting sick of the neglect, frankly, and I'm hoping that Mayor Brown intends to focus on the neighborhoods as well as the downtown. And I think that he's on the right track, so thank you for that.
Okay. All right. Another caller?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
could I just
Sure.
interject? I have a question for Mr. Carr, just for clarification. Mr. Carr, in your hypothetical scenario, he's not on the phone anymore?
No.
Okay. Well, I would just like to mention it for the benefit of everyone here. I question whether Mr. Carr in his scenario is talking about ownership, people coming in to purchase homes, or is he talking about more rental properties for Section 8 people? That's all I wanted to say.
Bill, I'd like to also add, jump
Sure.
in
Go
unless,
ahead, Mayor.
unless there's other council members who'd like to tell their story.
Go right ahead.
Okay, Jason, no city's perfect. Everybody has problems. A lot of the problems we have are common problems. Yeah, you know, we have crime, we have potholes, we have other things, but what we have in Wilkes-Barre is a city coming back, a city that is going to be re-energized. We're looking at new projects coming in. I mentioned a couple of them at the other meeting. We have Geisinger Investments, we have the Sphere investment, we have the new Hotel Sterling. So we have a city that we're bringing back, but also we're addressing the neighborhoods. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, we created a anti-graffiti task force. And we're actually remediating a lot of that graffiti that's out in the neighborhoods right now. We have a police presence that's more into the neighborhoods now. So we have a wonderful police force. We have a great fire department. We have people in DPW that are working. I mean, you may not have heard this, but we have a 20% increase in our collection rates. They're working hard to try and get that done. So we have a committed administration, we have committed people, and my goal is to bring back Wilkes-Barre, where people like you referenced, Jason, why should I move to Wilkes-Barre? Well, it's because it's a city that's coming back. It's going to be clean neighborhoods. It's going to be clean parks. It's going to be places that people can go and enjoy their free time with their kids. We're working on that. And that's something that over the next 3.5 years is very important to my administration and to me to work on that. And we're going to do the best we can over the next 3.5 years.
Yes, sir.
Some of the other questions you had, Bill?
They were ones that were addressed to you. He said that were sent to you. I don't know if you wanted to comment on those.
All right, yeah. Jason, let me talk about the pension funds. You had asked me, you know, what the funding ratio is right now. When we did have the aggregated pension fund meeting a few months ago when I first took office, it was in the mid 50 percentile. The problem is that won't get reevaluated until 2021. So when you ask me for a specific number, I can't quote you what percentage it is. You know, yeah, we lost money with the pandemic, but until they do a new analysis, I don't have a new percentage to say this is what our funding ratio is at. So that won't happen until January of 2021. They do it every 2 years. It was just done in January 2019, and that's where we got that percentage ratio. But I want you to understand something, that if we go below 50%, does not, and I'll say it again, does not indicate that we'll be taken over by the state and be an Act 47 city. Really, the way that would work is if we miss our minimum obligation payments, and we've been making our payments. Now, in the past, payments have been missed, but our obligation here is to make those payments. And it's just a fallacy that people think that if we go below 50%, the state can then take over. That's not the case. It's indicated by how many MMO payments that we miss and so forth. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a defined funding ratio because I don't have that. I won't have that until it's actually done in 2021. But But I can tell you that, we're making our minimum obligation payments. I can tell you that we're working hard to ensure that we don't get taken over by the state, because I do not want that to happen. But just to clear that up, so I wanted you to understand that. As far as my feeling regarding the sewer system, whether it's a sale or a lease, my intention was never to take that windfall and pump it into the pension plans. That was the prior administration. I've said that from the beginning, Jason, that that's not where I see my leadership going. What I'd like to do is, and this has been very clear in my meetings with the people that were interested in either buying it or leasing it, was I'm looking at keeping the rates as low as possible for as long as possible. So I'm not looking for that windfall. I'm looking for stabilizing rates. Now, I have not made a decision, and that's been put on the back burner right now. We're not even talking to these companies right now. We have too many other problems that we're dealing with, and that's not one that I want to raise right now, meaning the sale or lease of the sewer systems. We're doing the best we can just to keep the city going on a daily basis. And with all the projects coming up, these things are right now in the active mode. So no, I'm not looking at bailing out the pension funds. That was never my intention. It's still not my intention. What was the third question, Bill? Did you write down?
I only know that he said he sent you some questions. I don't
Yeah,
have those.
and these are the questions that I'm answering
That would
now.
be it.
And okay, I know what it was. The shortfall, the revenue shortfall because of the COVID-19. Jason, I had stated earlier at the other meeting that we've been in touch with the governor's office. There's funding that was given to the governor to help out the cities. I've written letters. We've been in touch with, speaking with the governor's task force and letting them know what our shortfalls may be. Originally, I said might be up to 4 or 5 million. What's happened recently is the projects that were not started are starting back up now, and we get the revenue sources that we were not counting on, but they are starting to generate some revenue now. And I get a daily cash report every day from Brett Kittrick, so I know where we stand. But the thing is, I'm hoping that we're going to be getting some revenue reinforcement from the governor to help us with the shortfalls that we are probably going to see. I don't have a defined number because we're still in this process. But we're starting to get mercantile taxes back in. We're starting to get permit fees back in from the projects. The Spear project that's going to be going on Northampton and South Main Street, they're actually going into demolition. The second week of June, they'll start the demolition mode after they meet with Councilman Brooks and Mr. Newman to talk about some of the historical natures of the building. But they're going to start actively working on that. They pulled permits to actually start with the demo work. That's starting up. They put together a plan for the Sterling Hotel. They're actually working on the annex building right next to the Sterling Hotel. You go by there, you'll see building materials and you'll see people working on that building. We're starting the Geisinger 65 Forward, brand new project at the Midtown Village. Geiser's investing in that process. Geiser is also investing in a brand new building on South Main Street down by the old Planters Peanuts building. So we have people that are investing in the city now. We have other projects. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to start the train station and renovate that. That's something that we're looking forward to. So what I'm trying to say, Jason, to answer your question is we are starting to get some revenue sources back in now. Also, the utility companies are working out on the streets again. So they're paying pave cut fees. These are all things that were not happening when we first started the shutdown with the COVID virus that are opening up again now. So it's looking like we're starting to get some revenue sources that we weren't counting on. So that's helping us out also. That aligned with help from the governor's office. We're looking at that very closely. So yeah, I have not raised taxes in my first budget, which was a very difficult situation. We did it. And I know everybody's concerned of what's going to happen next year, but I don't have a defined number, Jason, right now. We're doing the best we can. And I hope you understand. I'm trying to answer your questions the best I can. And we're working on this actually on a daily basis. We're working with the advisors. We're looking at, are there ways to save some money through financial investments, things like that. So it's an active, ongoing situation to make sure that the city is going to continue to thrive, even through this pandemic. So I believe I answered your question, and if I didn't, I apologize. It's not intentional.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hello. Hello.
Hang up.
For a while.
Okay, we'll wait another minute. Maybe we lost him.
Hang on, hold it.
Okay, council members, anything else? Go to the order. No, we have no incoming calls. Is that correct, Kathy? Mayor, anything? Okay. All right, motion to dismiss, adjourn, I should say.
Motion.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
With the person that's been calling since I was.